one school of thought is that aliens just want nothing to do with us because they're afraid of us. Like they see our history and don't want anything to do with us.
Yeah, so either other aliens are technology focused, culture focused. They won Civ 6 on a culture win and they don't do war, and so they avoid us. Or we're far enough away that we're not a threat. No one wants to bite. We're like a nature preserve. And no one's allowed to interact with us.
You were sleeping on the job, dude.
That person was underperforming. Yeah, that person was underperforming and needed to be put down. Not put down. Jesus.
Oh, jeez. What kind of 1984 level shit is this?
She takes a gun into the meeting room. It's like, I know. I'm sure you understand why I called you today. Yeah, sure. She's awful.
Yeah. Welcome to All Topics No Pizza, where we start with a single idea that add new topics until we forget everything that ever known to mankind. I am Matt, also known as Rhuminus.
Who?
Huh? What? Are you just Deion?
I'm every Deion.
Who you were? You're every Deion. Oh.
Without Nick here, I can expand my consciousness to every single person ever named Deion. And I speak for all of us today.
We are Deion.
We are Deion, yes.
And you are nothing. You never played Mass Effect.
No.
There's a character in the second game that does that, where he takes mind control, where he's like, we are limitless, you are nothing. And as soon as you kill him, he comes right back and just starts fucking your shit up.
I don't know if it's on
really
purpose,
obnoxious.
but I do sometimes speak in we.
The royal we, or just
just the royal we. It's whenever I'm making a mental note, I'm we gotta remember to do this later, as if I'm talking to the future version of myself at the same time. It's we have to. So it's the royal we, but it is also plural. It's me, and then also me in the future, or it's me and it's me in the past. It's that's what we did. We gotta do better next time.
I don't talk in the royal we so much. I talk in the general collective. I just view life as we are all working together. So I often will say, we are doing this, or we are doing this. I have the opposite problem. So whenever there's an issue, or I do something wrong, I always take accountability. Sometimes when I shouldn't. Sometimes I'll cover for someone else's mistake. But if something good happens, let's say I fix all the problems in IT, I say we as a team did that. But if something wrong happens, I will say I did that. I think that has a lot to do with my dad, and my dad did the opposite, where he never took accountability.
He was a narcissist. You're right. That makes sense.
And so I think I went the other way, where I often martyr myself when I shouldn't. And there are times where, I do take accountability. When I do something wrong, I never blame it on somebody else. But when when someone else does something wrong and they should take accountability.
Unless you're playing a video game, then it's never your fault.
Oh, it's never my fault. It's always the game. It's always the lag. It's always the controller. It's always my little brother that ran in. It's always
my little brother. I was waiting for that one.
I don't have a little brother, but I do want to congratulate us. I'm sad that Nick is not here to partake in this, but we are officially professionals, according to an earlier episode. I think it was episode 4 or 5.
Yeah, we are officially our first patron.
Yeah, we have a Patreon subscriber, so we are making money, which means that we are officially professionals in this field. Many people would probably disagree with us, and probably will disagree with us in the future
for
many
years. For many years, yeah. But this is we designed this metric, metric many moons ago, and now we've achieved our own goals. We have investigated ourselves and found ourselves with no wrongdoing. And we are officially professionals by our own accord, by our own accounts. We are technically professionals.
Yes, which means we need to start acting more professionally. Fuck you, Deion.
Oh, I thought you were going to start talking like a British accent.
No.
It's very posh all of a sudden.
How quaint. No, I'm not doing that. No, we are officially professionals. We have our first Patreon subscriber. Hopefully we don't ruin that.
Yeah, I know.
But, yeah. It's an interesting thing. I mean, we've been doing this. This is what, episode, I think, 18 at this point. So we've been doing this for nearly 5 months.
Which is cool. I didn't think we'd be doing it that long. I for sure thought one of us would just permanently drop the ball, and then we'd have to scrap this whole thing, which still might happen. I mean, there's many years.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. That's still a possibility. Don't get me wrong. We're still in our infancy here. Five months of doing a podcast is nothing compared to the people that have been doing it for years.
It's kind of like the restaurant thing, where like most restaurants fail in their first year.
Yeah.
We still have plenty of time to fail.
Don't worry. Don't worry, guys, in the future listeners, where you're like, man, there was only 55 episodes. Yeah, it's because we suck. Something we were talking about a little bit before and kind of going over, because all of us have plenty of ideas, and I do a lot of creative things. Some of them don't always pan out. Like I said before, my books never really made any money. Even so, I still enjoyed creating them. I still enjoy creating my YouTube videos. It's just, I like to create things, and most of us have ideas.
Your YouTube videos are getting not like popular, but they're growing up in views slowly.
Yeah,
that's something.
Like there's a steady increase, I would say, but I just like creating things, and if we don't achieve any sort of manner of success.
You get new views every day, at least.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks for the encouragement.
Everyone, if your mom isn't watching your videos, what are you even doing this for?
Every episode, man. We talked about a little bit about this before, but I just kind of want to go over it again in terms of imperfection, and that there are a lot of people who give up on content creation. Some of them go into it for the money, which, I mean, that's your own prerogative. I will say it is a lot of work. If you look at it and say it's an easy job, it really isn't. I spend usually about 10 hours. We spend about 2 to 3 hours recording, and then I spend about 10 hours editing these to make it sound somewhat decent. You may disagree with that, but I think it sounds palatable. I would say.
To people that can listen to the raw files, they know it sounds different.
Oh yeah, the raw file, it is rough.
We should honestly charge more for the raw files, just because it's so embarrassing. It should be behind a greater paywall.
Yeah, and if you're thinking about starting anything, whether it's YouTube, Twitch, whether you're thinking about doing DeviantArt, whether you're thinking about, I don't know, being a ballerina, but yeah, imperfection is a part of the game. You watch any of your favorite content creators, watch any sort of movie or TV show. The first season usually sucks ass. It really does. That's just because you really don't know what you're doing until you get into a groove and figure out.
For TV production, season one's usually pretty good. It's what happens before you get published on television or produced on television that's really bad, Like you're just an idea in some guy's pocket, or it's just it's just like it started off. There's plenty of shows that started off as YouTube series. Like I could give a bunch of examples, but they'd be pretty niche. But no, this one's not niche. Plenty of people know this. Issa Rae, who is on HBO now, and winning awards and stuff, started off literally just making random ass YouTube content. She had a pretty cool show that was relatable to a bunch of people, and then just continued to grow. The thing that I think is a problem with people and the fear of failure is that for most of us, we see our favorite content creators, and then we look into how to be like them, and we find out that they've been doing this since they were 11 or something like that. And it's just like, how am I supposed to break into this industry where everyone that's successful has been doing it since literally before I was born? Or you find out that, I'm going to try this new medium for my artwork. And then you look up examples of that, people who are successful in that medium. And the best person is like a 12-year-old that's been doing it for 4 years and is better than you and better than you think you could ever be. And you step into this self-fulfilling prophecy where, they are already doing it. They're already better than me. They're already they're already blah 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 blah. I'm not blah 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 blah. But it's just like when you self defeat yourself in that way, you've created your own self fulfilling prophecy. Like, you've not even given yourself the chance. And a lot of people also have this thing. A lot of previously gifted and talented kids, you know, that program from our childhood. A lot of them are like basically burnt out now, and so a lot of them have this mentality, and I mean a lot, like a large majority, where if it's like you can't succeed off your first attempt because that's how you used to succeed in school, you'd be like, oh, I get it, it's easy. Now as an adult, when you don't get something, if it's not easy, you just automatically switch to, well, it must not be meant to be. It must not be my gift. It must not be my intuition. You know, like I'm just gonna skip it. Well, I wasn't good at it the first time, so what's the point? You know, I'm the kind of guy that just learns things quick. If I don't learn it quick, well, then I'm just gonna move on. And these sort of self-defeatist philosophies and mentalities only serve to keep you in your common man place for the machine of the society that we live in. You know, like that feeling's intentional. It's that everything that we do, and I'm going to get real conspiracy theory here for a second, for a hot second, has been designed for us to do, including our failure.
And when I worked in retail, I had so many people in their late 20s, early 30s that would be like, you know, I think about going to school time, but then I realize I'll be 35 when I graduate. I'm like, and? Then you'll be doing potentially something that you want to do or make more money, which is what you want, and be out of this industry that clearly is depressing you. It's clearly locking you down and making you do something that you don't want to do.
I've heard that. My favorite response to that is, yeah, I mean, I'm already so old. If I go back to school now, I'll be 30x, 40x by the time I'm a doctor.
You'll be 40x regardless.
Yeah, you're going to be 40 anyway. Would you rather be 40 doing what you're doing, or would you rather be 40 having tried to do your dreams?
So when I was a teacher, and I love being a teacher, I, not to be arrogant, but I thought I was a really good teacher, just in terms of connecting with the students, delivering the content, being fair, honest, and all these sorts of things. And I had students that loved me, people that hated math. You know, they may not have loved math, but they, you know, came to my class and were generally fine because I taught in a way that they liked and treated them fair and honestly. I taught Latin, and the students loved it because I was a much better Latin teacher than math teacher. I'm not going to lie to myself. But the first lesson that I ever did, the first time I ever taught without someone guiding me and basically making the stuff for me when I was on my own, I failed miserably. Like, not even close. I literally couldn't even teach a lesson because it was so bad in terms of, like, I just completely whiffed. I was teaching second graders and I was in school to become a high school teacher. I had no idea what I was doing, and I completely just failed. And you know what? It taught me a very valuable lesson. One, when you're teaching something that you are not used to, with that being second graders, maybe research if they can read. Turns out they couldn't. And I gave them stuff to read, and they couldn't read it at all.
Are second graders supposed to be able to read, or that's not developmentally where they're at yet? Because I feel like in second grade I was reading. I don't know about you. I feel like I was reading in second grade.
So, and that's that I was pulling from my experience, is that in second grade I was reading. And I mean, I didn't give them paragraphs. I gave them literally like short sentences. I gave them what I thought was comparable to what I had in second grade. But these kids were not able to read consistently. And so it led to a lot of issues because they just didn't have the skill set what I thought that they should have. But according to the system or the class or whatever happened, they did not have.
Right.
And that was on me. Like, it doesn't matter what should happen. What happened is that I failed these students because I was not properly prepared to teach them according to their proper skill set.
People aren't perfect, and that's okay. I mean, everyone knows that being not perfect is okay, but some people really don't have it down yet. Like, yeah, no one's perfect. The thing that I think people struggle with, in my experience, is not that they're not perfect as people, but that the things that they produce should be perfect before they're recognized or published or you know, or whatever process you want to expose yourself and your work to.
I can also understand how it's defeating, because for some of my YouTube videos, I mean, they're 10, 15 minutes long, but I spend 25 hours on them, and they get a few views, not a lot. But for some people, that would be defeating, because the input to output ratio is not worth it. I'm inputting all of this time and energy and research and care and love into something that I want, and people are not, you might view it as people are not appreciating it, people don't care for it, it's not respected, it's just not worthwhile. Like, maybe it's just, maybe you view it as, this is not useful, people don't want to watch this, and that's on me. I would say that's wrong. That's a wrong way to look at it. That's the problem with it, is that if you're a perfectionist, I mean, there may be a mental thing, and I'm not qualified in any way to help you through that, but I would say that if you are mentally stuck at that, like you made whatever you did, and you failed the first couple times, but look at the good things that you did. Look at the things that made you proud.
You can't really fail at doing something until you've stopped doing something or stopped trying it. Failure is part of the scientific method. Failure is a part of the learning process, because success also can't be achieved. The way that we think about failure, we don't think about success the same way, because if we did, it would also be impossible to achieve, because until you were literally perfect at whatever thing you were trying to accomplish or achieve, you would never be done, because it would have failed at perfection, because failures are short of perfect for the most part. You know, you have to set very specific parameters for success. And if you don't do that, if you weren't taught to do that, you automatically set yourself up for failure instead. You know, like it's like for example, New Year's resolutions, which is coming up soon. The reason that something like, I don't know, probably 95% of people fail the New Year's resolution is because they set some abstract nonsense goal like, I'm gonna work out for an hour every day. 5 minutes.
I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. I'm going to get buff, and if I don't do that within 2 days, I'm going to give up.
Yeah, like set realistic goals, and if you can expand upon those goals, great. But if you can't, at least, because the parameter you set was ridiculous. You've never been that dude. You've never been that chick. And as much as
working
I would
out
love,
sucks, by the way. My entire when I was younger, especially in my teenage years, I used to be able to do a shit ton of push-ups and pull-ups, and I used to,
that's
do a
because you
lot of
didn't
muscle.
weigh anything.
Well,
I knew you then. You weighed like 14 pounds at 15 years old.
Oh, it happened all the time. I remember ninth grade, they had us do the fitness test or whatever, and one of them was the chin-ups.
Oh, and what did you fly through the chin-ups?
Oh, I crushed them. Like the girls would be able to do 1 or 2, and all the dudes are like, yeah, I could do like 4 or 5. I did so many that the teacher said, you need to stop. Like, you got 22, you only needed to get 10 to beat the A level score. Stop. And I was like, I'm in the zone.
Yeah. Turns out chin-ups are not that hard if you only weigh 90 pounds and you're like...
Well, I mean, I would say everything's proportional. I mean, my muscle mass was also proportional to me being 90 pounds, you piece of shit. Why did you get a balloon on my accomplishments? Now I don't want to do anything ever. How's it feel? You see what you did? You see what you did?
No, you deserve this.
Working out sucks, and the amount of people who told me, you get addicted. No, I didn't.
No, so that's exactly what I was about to say. I don't understand the people that are like, oh, you just got to get through that first rough phase, and then you'll be addicted to it. I have an addiction problem. It runs through my family. I'm easily addicted to video games and other sort of stimuli where I can easily track my progress. I like being able to track my progress very closely. And you can track your progress very closely while working out. You can literally see daily your muscle growth and your ability to do one more rep or one more step. You can add these things. I've worked out before. I used to live on a college campus. I had a gym around the corner from me. I've worked out with my friends. Like, oh, let's go running. Let's go work out. Here's the thing. Unless you have some deep-rooted incentive, or you're one of those people that just has this incredible amount of willpower, you have to grind, and you have to build. And also, unless you're the kind of person that just has it, you can build up your willpower so that you can just control yourself every day and go do that workout every day. But I promise you, even with the dopamine that you do get from working out, I have never in my entire life been addicted to working out. Because the problem is that you might be addicted to the workout, but for me, getting there is some bullshit. I'm not doing that. You want me to go out in 20-degree weather so that I could pump some iron? Is not happening. I have video games right here in my laptop. They are right here, son. So the people that say that, oh, you get addicted, those people are boring to me because you don't have anything else going on at home. That's what's going on. You're the people that like, fuck. Goodbye to another type of person.
Add one more to the bucket.
But for me, the people that are like that stay in the gym are either trying to get away from some home life situation, trying to overcome body image issues, which isn't going to work. Or because we never talk about that. Dudes that like gym bros that are stuck in the gym, because women talk about having body image issues all the time. Dudes don't talk about it like that. They talk about it completely differently. But the truth of the matter is, if you broke it down, those dudes have the same amount of body issues as women do.
Well, there's two parts of it. There's one, the societal expectations that we've talked about this in a previous episode where technical issues went awry, where men are told don't cry, don't be pathetic, do all these things, and women are told to be beautiful, be magnificent, be silent, do your basically play your part in society. And you can see that we are breaking away from that significantly, where plenty more women are entering the workforce, plenty more men are staying at home, or people are making equal pay, and that's great, that's wonderful, because your value or your duties as a person should be what, according to the American dream and the American ideals, should be what you want to do. If you want to be a ballerina and you're a dude, go do that. If you want to be a bodybuilder and you're a woman, go do that. The issue comes along not only in the way that we're brought up, but also in the way that we have a lot of these toxic masculinity, toxic femininity, just generally just shitty attitudes towards life, where women will look down on a man who doesn't work, even if he's a stay-at-home dude, and he takes care of the kids and everything because he's not a real man, which is a fucking dog shit statement. And people will look at the same thing as a woman. It's like, oh, she doesn't stay home, she doesn't take care of the kids, she doesn't want kids, she's not a real woman. Like, no, she's a person with her own dreams and desires. Just because it doesn't match your idea of what she should be doesn't mean that she's any less. And it bothers me significantly. It's unfair to expect someone to live the life that either you want them to live or your own life. And I think it's where a lot of the toxicity comes in, is from jealousy or envy, where I've seen plenty of women attack other women because they're objectively more beautiful, which I can tell you as a 27-year-old man, and Deion hopefully can back me up, there's when you're 14 to 16, probably 17, 18, physical attraction is very much important just because you're dumb and young. As I've gotten way older and had way more partners, you're pretty, but you are dumb as shit. Or you're pretty, but you're just not right for me. You're pretty, but you're really mean. At
a certain age, your personality definitely supersedes how conventionally attractive you are. And it doesn't matter. Attractiveness is definitely subjective. There's very rarely an objectively more attractive person. Admittedly, though, we do have societal standards by which we judge people by. Yeah. But celebrity standards are bullshit, and no one should be judged by them regardless. But yeah, I can agree with most of what you said. I can do that.
And you see it all the time where a woman is in a position of authority and she's called a bitch for doing her job, really.
Or doing things that men are applauded for.
Yes. And that's she fired somebody, so she's a bitch. No, you were sleeping on the job, dude.
Was underperforming. Yeah, that person was underperforming and needed to be put down. Not put down. Jesus.
Oh, jeez. What kind of 1984 level shit is this?
She takes a gun into the meeting room. It's like, I know. I'm sure you understand why I called you today. Yeah, sure. She's awful. Yeah. But short of killing someone, that went so left. What did I say that for?
I don't know.
I need to remove "put down" from my lexicon. I've done this before where I've said, I just put my partner to sleep. I just they went to bed and I, sent them off to bed and I said "put down" instead. And then also, in D&D they have this beautiful concept called failing forward, where it's a failure doesn't mean the end of an interaction or a punishment. It just means that you didn't get the desired outcome, but that doesn't mean that the outcome is undesirable. It doesn't mean that your reward might be less. Your
Yeah.
reward might be unexpected. It doesn't mean that you can't continue forward performing and acting. I love that concept, and then that concept works in plenty of other media and games and just in life. Failing forward is what humans do. How many of our most amazing medical advancements were just like, oh shit, I didn't mean to drop that. Oh, this is useful.
Well,
You know?
microwaves, penicillin.
Penicillin's the big one.
Yeah, penicillin's the big one because I was like, whoop. It literally left his experiment out overnight and went over the weekend. It was like, huh, shit, interesting. What's this about?
Right. Let's record this and see what happens.
Yeah, microwave was another one. He had a chocolate bar in
Closest
his
thing
like
we got to
pocket.
panacea ever.
Yeah, and they shot radio waves at him and then melted the chocolate bar. And he's like, huh, interesting.
Okay. Assuming that you know a lot. All right. We know that things that have a measurable volume, we can measure that in sound waves. And so I understand that, like with really rudimentary recordings, you can record the sound waves in almost any surface, to be honest. Popularly, we've used vinyl to record sound waves, right?
Which is insane to me because, again, when you look at it, it's literally you're taking a disc and scratching it.
With your sound waves. Right?
Yes, to emulate the sound waves.
So that part makes super sense to me. Like, I'm going to scream into this cone.
That is okay.
And for a long time, they literally just used cones. And it's going to move a needle. And that needle... Okay, so this is where it loses me. Now, if I somehow, and I'm going to use big quotes, play back this recording, the needle will allow the device to produce a sound that mimics my sound waves. The fuck?
Exactly.
What?
It's
okay. Because I get vinyl. Vinyl makes sense. Sound waves hit a recording surface, and the sound waves are somehow etched into the recording surface. It's the playback that breaks me.
How does this vinyl disc create
you took
human
this
voices?
tactile machine, turned the levels of the recording material into electronic signals, which you were able to somehow manipulate into sound waves with a What is a speaker? Like, I don't know. I know I can Wikipedia all this stuff. I know that we sound dumb as shit, but it's just like when you try to layman's this shit, you end up sounding dumber than someone who understands. I just don't understand how we went from like in the 80s and 90s, in the 80s and maybe the 70s. I don't know the exact history of computer. The 70s and 80s, inserting punch cards into a scanner to program machines. We went from computers taking up full offices, like full floors of institutions, right? Like a one computer.
And dear God, if you touch that thing, those things were millions and millions of dollars. You were not touching that computer that could barely calculate 3 plus 7.
It was so sensitive. And now we have computers that are several thousand magnitudes more powerful than the one that sent the moon lander in our pockets, just chilling. And they are
just waiting for your voice to tell it to Google something stupid.
It's just, we're not to be trusted with us. We've passed the singularity point. Like the part where Skynet takes over and we're just, and what we didn't realize, and we were just waiting for our doom. We're past that point. We're just waiting for it.
Do you know the Fermi paradox?
I've heard of it.
Where basically, statistically speaking, the Fermi paradox is, statistically speaking, there's no way that aliens don't exist. The amount of stars, the amount of planets, habitable planets there are, it's just incredibly statistically unlikely. And yet we don't have any kind of source of alien life. But then there's the two schools of thought where one is aliens exist and they don't want anything to do with us. Just for one reason or another, they don't want anything to do with us. Maybe they're afraid. Maybe they don't want to talk to us. Maybe they don't have interstellar travel like we don't. Maybe they're just as advanced in terms of like they just can't do hyper fast travel. Or there's the other school of thought of just aliens just don't exist and that we are a complete anomaly, which is weird. I believe more the school of thought of aliens probably do exist. They
Yeah.
either are not advanced, or I would say more than likely they look at us and go, nope, not dealing with that.
I choose to believe that they're equally as not advanced because presumably the universe ish started similarly. The only ones who would be significantly more advanced would be the ones that started closer to the center of the universe that haven't, for one reason or another, you know. So we know that we know, based on our observations, that the universe is expanding.
Yes.
And so as a result, that means that at some point, things that were closer together are now farther apart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we also know that our Earth is in a relatively ideal position for creating life with the kind of sun that we have, the kind of star that we have, and the kind of moon that we have. It all kind of balanced out relatively well for carbon-based life on our planet, right? With the amount of water that we had, the amount of Earth we had. The Fermi paradox indicates that there must be other life.
Well, I think that's where a lot of people. It's one of those things where we have all these scientific discoveries and all those sorts of things, and then people lose faith in science is because, well, you don't have an answer. Like, not yet.
That's the whole point of science.
And and that's where people lose that idea of science is that, well, I mean, you go through school and you grow up and like, oh, we have all the answers, we have all these things, we know what's going on. That's not entirely true. Like, how do memories form? We still don't know.
Oh, fuck off.
Exactly. How do memories form? Why do our bodies do this? Why do we dream? Why do we do?
Why do we need sleep? Why is sleep necessary?
But why? Yeah, but why? And you would say, well, your body needs rest. I'm like, but some animals don't. Some animals don't sleep, or they like cats will sleep for 5 minutes at a time, and they go, I'm cool, I'm good.
No, cats sleep for 18 hours a day. Apparently.
Throughout the day, but they'll take what's called cat naps. They'll sleep for 5-10 minutes and be like, I'm good. I'm ready to run around and play again.
And then they'll zoom in your house and then you go back to sleep. But
I'm gonna ask the question and then
fun, yeah.
Yeah. So the question, and I thought about this before we recorded because I was trying to think of a question. So my question for you, and this is completely subjective, and it is completely, just absolutely, I think a good question to lead into each person's individual mind. What makes a person good in your eyes? Just intrinsically, no matter across the board, what makes them good? What values, what characteristics, what morals makes them a good person?
I mean, I guess it'd be a list.
Exactly.
But obviously, this is completely personal.
For me, anybody says, oh, it's because when they say their name, like, no, there's no one thing that makes you a good person. You have to have multiple things.
So there'd be a long list here. For me, I guess, who I think of when I think of a good person, I think of a few family members, I think of a few role models. The things that they have in common
maybe think of like 3 or 4
like,
things instead of the giant list.
Okay, fine. Things that have in common is they do their best by others, right? So like whenever you're not someone else, you make sure that you do your best by them, not because you owe it to them or because they deserve it, but because it's people that prioritize the good of the many. That one's hard though because it's really, really, really subjective and really, really hard to wrap your head around for a lot of people. And it's like a whole. I mean, you could literally, and people do teach whole courses on the difference between the good of the many, the good of the few, etc. But people that generally choose the good of the many are generally good people. It really depends, but for the most part, okay. This is good. This is where it gets super personal. A good person is someone that is communicative and can communicate not only their needs but also can communicate understanding. Understanding, I think, empathy basically is a really good indicator of a decent person. Not necessarily good, like morally speaking good, but it's a good indicator of someone who's going to be at least patient. You know, you can't have empathy without patience. You can't have patience without understanding. And someone who's going out of their way to understand in a genuine sense usually has good communication skills. Anyway, did you have an answer that you wanted to give as a result of asking?
So I've been thinking about this, and a lot of this has to do with my current boss, my dad. It has to do with my brother, myself, and just generally, I've always tried to be the best person that I could, and I've always tried to be the best boss and manager or leader or teacher that I could be. And I realized the things that made my students like me the most was a lot of sympathy and compassion. I kind of lumped those in together. It was understanding, like you said. It was just sympathy, compassion, understanding. It was helping people as much as you could. Because my issue is a lot of people who say, like, if you don't give money to the homeless, if you don't do this or that, that makes you a bad person. Like, no. If you don't have the money, the expression is don't was it don't
can't
set
pour
yourself
from an
on
empty
fire to
cup.
keep someone else warm. Yeah.
Oh, we have very different examples. I guess those are the same thing.
What was yours?
You said you shouldn't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. I said you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, so it's the same thing. Like,
It's the same thing.
You don't want to ruin yourself or give something that you can't to someone who else is needy, because then you're hurting yourself. And some people would say, like, well,
That's
sometimes life is
selfish.
sacrifice. I'm like, that's not sacrifice, though. That's killing yourself. And unfortunately, you deal with the hand that you're dealt. So that's why I say sympathy and compassion are more important, because I have sympathy for the homeless. I do. And I give food to them when I can. Like, I always have food in my trunk because I work for a vendor company and I get free stuff. But I don't give them money because I've done that before and I've gotten burned on it. Like, they've gone just used it for shitty things. And I don't give them money because it's not that I don't care. It's not that I don't know. I'm not going to take the risk that you're going to spend this either on something stupid, you're going to waste it, or maybe you're not actually homeless. That's also been a problem, that some people pretend to be homeless and actually make a good living by begging. So compassion and
one of
sympathy.
my mom's ex-partners had a really funny story about that, where it's like he saw this dude. No, is this just a parable? I don't know. But yeah, no, people do. This might be a parable just because people do sometimes make a really good living peddling on the street corner. Basically, what had happened was the person that he had seen peddling for like 5 or 10 years on the corner, he saw somewhere else, like further away from where he lived, driving a better car than he did. And he was like, is that dude from the corner driving a newer car than me? And he was just like, from then on, I never gave a single dime to any other person begging for money ever.
Yep.
Because sometimes those people make more than $20 an hour, which, as we all know, is absurd. Mm-hmm. All it takes is one or two generous people an hour or two, and you're making essentially bank.
Yeah. And that's why I say sympathy and compassion are far more important, because you can have sympathy, compassion, you can feel for other people while not necessarily helping them. Again, some people disagree and say a good person always acts and does helpful things even if it's abused. And I go, no, that's protecting yourself. And there comes a point in life where you got to realize there are bad people and bad actors, and you got to protect yourself and your own well-being. Again, don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, because you're going to kill yourself. I would also say one big thing for me is accountability. Is someone who's able to admit that they're wrong, someone who is forthright, and someone who tries to better themselves. And it's something I've dealt with a lot in IT and education, where people refuse to admit that they're wrong. It's why a lot of students didn't respect their teachers, because they would be wrong. The student would call them out and they would strongly disagree. And the teachers would just adamantly refuse to accept it. And it's what caused a lack of respect. So accountability, compassion, sympathy, and just generally, like you said, working for your society, the greater good, and the populace.
Right.
I understand working for your community is good too, but just working for, sometimes you got to understand, again, this group of 3 people is going to get hurt, but this group of 100 is going to benefit. And that's just, unfortunately, the way it goes.
You should never try to reduce people down to the numbers, but when you're stuck in a moral dilemma, it's kind of where you have to go.
It's the trolley problem. Yeah.
It's the trolley problem. It's the how do you feed, these people problem? Do you feed the 98 and starve the 2? Life is messy and I've always loved philosophy, but loving philosophy is sort of like a hateful, living, because you have to put yourself in other scenarios that were once true for some people, right? You don't get these dilemmas without having faith. You don't just make up dilemmas. I mean, some people do, but most of them are relatable to some people. Without people did have to starve so that other people could live. People did have to die so that other people could live, and people have made those decisions for those people. And we live in an awful, awful, awful time. And I've fallen not out of love with philosophy completely, but it gets pretty close sometimes with how philosophy can be insensitive,
just kind of cruel, and
because
you have nihilism,
you end up crunching the numbers on what is a human life worth, and that's not fun.
That's where you get existentialism, because you look at it and go, is it really all worth it? Is there a purpose to all of this nonsense when you have bad people that succeed and good people that fail. I'm like, well, again, it depends on your perspective and how you view success and failure. Unfortunately, this is the way life goes. And like you said, sometimes life is messy and you just got to crunch the numbers and do what's best for your situation. Not what's the best thing in the world, but what's best for your situation. Thanks everybody for listening. We started with accepting your imperfections and ended with extraterrestrial life and perceptions in the world. And we, just like you guys, have no idea how we got there either. We hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you next Thursday. If you want to support us, we have a Patreon page. I, Rhuminus, will upload to YouTube and have also published 2 books. You can support us that way as well if you'd like.
I can make noise for dead air, or you can.
Brr, brr, brr.
No, that is not what I asked for at all. Okay,
Is everything okay with her?
Oh, I accidentally hit another video. That's why it was not the one I wanted.
Did we lose you to the YouTube hole?
Okay, yeah, almost. All right, check this out.